Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. Going to have a look at when it's week 10 days. In today's video, this will take us to around the 5th of May, so into the first week of the new month. We've got the cold weather coming up over the next few days. It'll be an unusually cold week with some damaging night frost, because it's so late into the year, and also a chance of some wintry conditions. I think always most likely in the north and over high ground, but a few flakes tomorrow and Wednesday particularly could occur down in the south. We'll probably update Snow Watch this evening to see what the latest idea from the GFS model is in terms of wintry potential through the next few days. But we're going to look at the next week, 10 days, and we are seeing signs that as we get through into the weekend, bank holiday weekend, on into the first week of May, we're probably going to see the winds reverting back more towards the Atlantic. So we should see the temperatures starting to try and crawl themselves back up. It's not looking warm by any means, but I think we will see the temperatures trying to stage a little bit of a recovery over the weekend and into next week. I'll show you all the charts in a second. Before I get on with that, just to mention the ads, there's links to articles on all of the pages. Have a browse through widgets and click through links if there's any articles that you're interested in. Thanks so much for doing that. There's video ads on most of the pages and they open up the content when you watch them. They'll close back up again. It helps to pay for gasworthies.com. So we'll start off with the 500 millibar height anomalies for the next week to 10 days. We've got the GFS on the bottom, and the ECMWF is on the top. We'll have a look at the GFS in a moment. 500 millibars, 8,000 feet is an area in absolute high pressure, low pressure being moved around by the jet stream. And red on these charts extrapolates to high pressure, and blue extrapolates to low pressure. So for the coming week, 10 days, we've got this northern block here. That's going to be delivering us all this cold weather in the coming week. That's still there over top of the pole, but what's happening is that heights are rising down to the southwest, so we're beginning to raise pressure a little bit towards Spain and the Bay of Biscay and generally off the coast of Portugal, which starts to lift the jet stream a bit further north. We've still got a trough to the east with cold air entrenched within it, but the jet stream starting to lift a little bit more to the north, still more or less running through the country, so still pretty unsettled, but with the jet stream beginning to lift a bit further north, starting to switch the winds around a little bit more towards the west, temperatures should be staging more of a recovery. That's the ECMWF. The GFS is a bit different. That has a very deep trough centred just to the east of the country, over central parts of Europe. Still all of that northern blocking to the north. And whilst heights are rising a little bit down to the southwest, not as much. The flow is generally going more Atlantic based, but still probably a little bit to the south of us. So that is cooler and very unsettled going through into that period. Let's say the second, third, through to the 5th of May, around this day 7 to 10 time frame. The GFS temperature and precipitation ensemble show all this up quite nicely. So we'll deal with the temperatures first of all. Red line here is the 30-year temperature average. See how significantly colder an average we are at the moment, and we're going to stay that way through the rest of this week. Certainly the dates are on the bottom of the chart up to the 1st of May, just here, that's Sunday. We're still quite significantly cooler than average. Beyond that, though, we do see the ensembles beginning to trend upwards. So very, very gradually. It is a really slow process, but very gradually, as we go through that first week of May and towards the second week of May, we do start to see the temperatures beginning to lift up. So by the time you get through to the end of the ensemble, actually we have gone a little bit above average as we get through into the second week of May. Now, that's a very long way off, and I wouldn't take that too seriously. But there's definitely a trend here that for the coming 5 days at least, probably the next week, it's cold and average. And then beyond that, sometime over bank holiday weekend and then through the first week of May, we start to see the temperatures staging a very, very slow and gradual recovery. Now, while all this is going on, there's loads of precipitation coming up. So the spikes along the bottom of the chart indicating plenty of rainfall coming through during the next couple of weeks. We're starting off and settled just here, and we just stay that way really throughout. So this will be very cold rain and possibly some wintry conditions in the early part of the ensemble. As I have a look at Snow Watch, you see, and see what wintry potentially is looking like for the next few days. As we get through with this increase in the temperature into the second part of the ensemble, it's still very unsettled, so this period is seeing well, it's not cold rain, it's slightly warmer rain coming through. But overall, a very unsettled start to May looks probable. Now, these are the temperature anomalies of the coming week. This is going from the 25th of April to the 3rd of May, and very, very significantly colder than average for the UK and most of Europe as well. The anomalies here are anything from around 4 to 6 degrees below average for us. Some parts of Central Europe coming out anything from 8 to 10 degrees colder than average there for some parts of Central Europe. Keep in mind, this is the average for the end of April, so whilst the charts do look very dramatic, it's not going to be severely cold, certainly not for the UK, there won't be widespread snow or anything like that. But if we'd had this sort of anomaly, 4 to 6 degrees colder than average in January, then we'd have been talking about ice days, severe frost, and probably a lot of snow as well. So lucky or unlucky that this is happening at the end of April rather than the middle of January. Just depends on your point of view. The precipitation anomaly for the next week, the 25th of April through to the 3rd of May, generally coming out wetter than average. You'll not be surprised after seeing that GFS ensemble. So this is how we go through into the weekend. Still on a cold note on Friday. Low pressure generally centred to the east, high pressure up to the northwest. So there's all the blocking over the top of the pole, and there's the low pressure seen to the eastward, so the winds are still coming in from a northerly direction as we end the working week. We go through into the bank holiday weekend, and notice high pressure trying to throw a bit of a ridge up from the Azores, so the winds beginning to back round into the west on Saturday, and that continues into Sunday. And on Sunday we are driving in Atlantic weather now, so just to show you how quickly things can change around. By Sunday we've got the low pressure coming back towards Iceland, high pressure is building to the south, and the winds firmly back into the west. Now this isn't going to be a particularly warm westerly, but it will be milder compared to what we've coming up what we've got coming up over the next 4 or 5 days. And then we go through into bank holiday Monday. That's looking unsettled, low pressure close by, although the latest idea is to have a bit of a ridge across Spain and France, so that could perhaps give southern counties some protection on bank holiday Monday, but overall that's still looking really quite an unsettled bank holiday weekend. And then we go through into next week, and the latest idea is to build a bit of a ridge up from the southwest. Actually, this is day 10 from the GFS. This is Thursday the 5th of May. Not sure about this really, but it does show a bit of a ridge building here, but there's still a lot of low pressure out to the west and the southwest, and I suspect wouldn't take very long for these areas of low pressure in the Atlantic to start moving back in. And that ridge does look rather flimsy that's building there at day 10. If we was to run on, I think we'd probably find that it turns increasingly unsettled. What happens is that the ridge actually gets squeezed back up to the north, and we finish up more or less back where we started with quite a bit of northern blocking, and the winds back into the east and the south, and pressure is weak to the south as well, so probably an increasing risk of rain there coming up from the south and southeast as we get through towards the end of the first week of May. That all goes rather strange by about day 10. Having a look at the East MWF, that shows low pressure dominating for the end of the week, and it's a cold area of low pressure as well, with winds in from north and northwest, so it could be rain, sleet or snow across the country on Friday, which stays unsettled into Saturday, and staying unsettled into Sunday and bank holiday Monday as well. There's that ridge starting to build a little bit down to the south and the west. The jet stream is going something like that. So it is being pushed back northwards a little bit. The temperatures would be recovering over bank holiday weekend, recovering somewhat, but still generally quite cool, and still really, I think, unsettled for the bank holiday. We go through into next week, and the ridge is still sitting there to the south, so southern parts probably turn drier and a little bit warmer as we get through into the middle of next week, but the north still looking quite unsettled. Day 10, which is Thursday the 5th of May, again shows that ridge trying to push up from the south and west, but we've got two troughs, one very deep one to the east, another one in the Atlantic. I think really this ridge, although it is trying to get in, will probably be flattened off fairly quickly with the Atlantic rolling back in. But it's a little way off. It's day sort of 8, 10, and let's wait and see where that goes. We might get a bit of high pressure as we get through into the end of the first week of May. I do think temperatures are going to stage a recovery. It's very cold for the time of year this week. I think next week we are seeing a trend to turn the temperatures milder, lift them up closer to average. And if that ridge does get in by day 10, maybe we could start to think about going a bit warmer than average, having some pleasant, warm, sunny spell. But it's a long way off. So that's how it's looking for the next week, 10 days. Anyway, very cold this week, a bit milder next week, and overall quite unsettled until maybe some sort of ridge builds around day 10. We'll probably update Snow Watch this evening, see what the snow potential is from the GFS model for the next 4 or 5 days. So we'll come back for that. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.